Good evening, boys and girls. It's time for another bedtime story with Miss Alonso. I hope that you had a wonderful day today, and as you are getting ready to settle down for bed, Miss Alonso came across a story that I really think you will enjoy. Victoria and I have watched a lot of Disney movies as we have been home. We love to get snuggled up with our favorite blankets, and one of our favorite movies to put on is The Lion King. That was one of the first movies that I ever went to see in theaters. Of course, it was the cartoon version, not the new live action version that many of you are very much familiar with, but I'm a little bit older than that, not by much. This story is not The Lion King, but it does have a lion in the story as our main character, and there is a very important lesson, a character that you may not realize is important as well throughout the story. So I do hope you enjoy tonight as I read to you The Lion Inside. And if you look, our little mouse is on top of the lion. And as soon as you turn the page, it's easy to miss, but our little mouse is sitting in a chair. He looks very scared. And he is reading a book called How to Roar. I've never heard a mouse roar before. Maybe it will happen in our story. In a dry, dusty place where the sand sparkled gold stood a mighty flat rock, all craggy and old. Not quite the Pride Rock that we see in The Lion King, but it looks very familiar. And under that rock, in a tiny full house, lived the littlest, quietest, meekest brown mouse. Look at his cute little house. There's our little mouse. He's peeking out the door, and he lives under that rock. That's a good hiding place for a little mouse. He was so very tiny, so incredibly small, that nobody ever noticed him ever at all. Hello. See our little bitty mouse way down here in the grass. He is so small. None of the other animals notice him. And he's so quiet. He got stepped on and sat on. Ow! He missed out on stuff, ignored and forgotten. Ouch! His mouse life was tough. Poor mouse. Stepped on by the elephant and sat on by the zebra. He's got a little tear. Poor mouse. Meanwhile, far above on top of the rock, times were quite different. It was lion o'clock. Look at this big lion. He's just relaxing on top of that rock while the little mouse is getting stepped on and sat on and has tears rolling down his eyes. He tries to say hello, but he's so tiny and quiet. This huge, toothy creature made sure everybody saw how important he was and how loud he could be. So there's our big lion. Roar! Whoa. What a roar. That reminds me of Mufasa and his loud roar. Remember, Simba had just that little bitty cat meow, but Mufasa had a very strong and powerful roar. He was head of the pack. He was shouty and proud. He loved flexing his biceps and wowing the crowd. He wanted to be seen as powerful. Yes, all were impressed by this mighty king cat. If only, thought Mouse, I could be more like that. So here's Lion putting on the show. But you notice little Mouse is watching closely, and he wishes he could be more like the lion. Then, late one dark night, in his tiny mouse bed, The cleverest thought popped into his head. He leaped up in the darkness and held up a paw. "I've got it," he said. "What I need is a roar. Roar." Here's Little Mouse. I love how at first it seemed like he was really sad and he wanted to be someone else. But in the middle of the night, he's come up with this idea, and he thinks if he has a roar, that maybe others will notice him too. I mean, what if this mouse with the weeniest squeak were a little more grrr and a little less meek? Well, he'd still be the smallest of fuzzy brown mice, but he'd make friends and join in, and life would be nice. He's imagining being able to be seen by all the other animals. Look at him practicing in the mirror. He's practicing his roar. "Yes," thought the mouse, "I must find out how. I will learn how to roar, and I will learn it now." But it wouldn't be easy. There was only one beast who could teach him this thing, but might make him a feast. Who do you think he is going to ask for help? The lion. Do you think the lion will eat the little mouse up or help the mouse? Or maybe just chase him away? He's hoping that the lion will help him, but he's not sure. He does not want to become feast for the lion. It was time to be strong. Take a chance. After all, forever was such a long time to feel small. He's building up courage. Have you ever had to build up your courage to do something? Or right before you do something, have to build up the confidence to be able to do it? I have to do that all the time. I usually get really nervous and really scared, and I'm really afraid I'm going to mess up. But sometimes you have to just tell yourself you can do it. And even if you make a mistake, it's okay, because it just helps you learn and get better. And the more you do something, the better you get. So Little Mouse is finally coming to that bravery that he is going to risk it all to ask the lion for help. So he made himself brave, and he thought like a winner. He set off for the top, hoping not to be dinner. Here he goes. It felt like the scariest thing he could do. But if you want things to change, you first have to change you. The farther he climbed, the closer he got to the slumbering lion, reclining on top. Here he goes. He's almost to the top. You can see it just up here. Look at all those bones. Oh my goodness. I would be shivering. Then, at last, as he stood on his tippity toes, he found himself suddenly nose to... He's finally at the top. Ooh, I see a shadow. Who do you think he is nose to? Let's see. Nose. Ahem, gulped. Pardon me. Wake up, Mr. Lion. You've got company. Squeak. Mr. Lion, what I've come for you is squeak. Do you think you could teach me your roar? So he comes nose to nose with the lion, and he's trying to get the lion's attention. Look how big that lion is. And how little our little mouse is. It doesn't seem like the lion is paying him much attention. He might still be sleeping. A silence befell that twinkling plain. Lion opened his eyes and puffed out his mane. Time went so slowly, it felt like a week. Then he opened his mouth and let out an Oh, he finally opened his eyes. Can you imagine being as little as our little mouse and being nose to nose to this big lion? He let out, eek! I thought he was going to let out a roar. Look at the lion. He jumps up off the ground. Eek! Why did he do that? Surely he's not scared of this little bitty mouse. Lions are supposed to be brave. Maybe he's trying to scare him. Let's see. The lion curled up in a terrified ball. He didn't like this, not one bit at all. "Don't hurt me," he whimpered. "Oh, try to be nice." Well, this mighty great lion was frightened of mice. A lion frightened of a mouse? Look at him. He's terrified. He can almost not even look. He's speaking through his fingers. I cannot believe it. "Don't worry," Mouse peeped. "I'm here as a friend. Let's hang out together, be pals till the end." So the mouse who was so scared is now telling the lion not to worry, that he wants to be his friend. That is not what I saw coming. Not at all. I didn't think lions were scared of anything. And sometimes I remember being a kid thinking my parents were not scared of anything and that adults really had it easy, but adults are just as scared. We all have something that we're scared of or that we have to face and be brave. That was a magical moment for sure. When the mouse didn't feel at all small anymore. He had found his true voice and learned to speak out. And for that, you don't need a roar or to shout. Look how happy they both look. That's a very important lesson. That's why I love this book so much. And from that day and always, the two were a pair. They both liked that rock better. Now that rock was to share. The mouse, while still little, felt big in his head. And Lion, he still roared, but with laughter instead. Ha 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 ha. So instead of a loud roar, he has a loud laugh. Look at them laughing together. Yes, that day they both learned that no matter your size, we all have a mouse and a lion inside. The end. I love reading this story, and I did not get a chance to read this to my boys and girls, but at the end of the year, as we reflect, one thing that we talk about was how much we have changed from the beginning of the year. Every time something new happens or you start something new, that's where that little mouse sometimes come into play. I know for me, that's how I am. When something's new, that little mouse is inside and I have to build up that bravery. And I know that I always think, oh man, I wish I could be like them. They're so confident. They know the right thing to say. They know the right thing to do. And I really start to think that I cannot do as well as others. But my little mouse inside pushes me to try to build up the courage to face that fear. And we learn from one another that everyone has a mouse inside and everyone has a lion inside. And sometimes the mouse is brave and the lion is scared, which is not what we think. When I see a lion, I think strong and brave. When I see a mouse, I think little and weak. But in this story, the opposite ended up happening. And now we have two pals forever. And instead of that loud roar and showing off, he now has a true pal. And I think together they make the perfect pair. And that's how I feel about my boys and girls. We make the perfect family. And I miss them so very much. I hope that you all loved this story. And I hope that my boys and girls, even though I didn't get to read it to you in person, I really do hope that you enjoyed this as much as I wish I could have read it to you in person. I know that I have a lot of mice and lions in my classroom. We all have both inside of us. And I wish I could hear from you those moments where you felt like the mouse and those moments where you also felt like the lion, where you felt very strong and confident, but also those moments where you felt weak. Whereas the mouse, you always felt weak and unsure, but then you had this moment of bravery where you overcome your fear. I hope that we'll get to share those in person. I've already seen a lot happen myself in the classroom, and I'm very thankful for every single one of those moments. To all of you, I love you so much. I hope that you have sweet dreams, and I cannot wait to read to you again tomorrow night. Love you, boys and girls.